everyone, welcome back to The Theory of Three. My name is Austin, and we are going to be talking about a subject that is sort of following along the conversation of the last episode. We talked about freelancing, we talked about film school, but now we're going to move into what happens when you do go freelance and the importance of contracts, legal contracts. Guys, so in our experience, obviously, we've gone through many iterations of change from like simple, we will do this work for this on a piece of paper to, actually fully written out legal documents that have been, overviewed by lawyers, so on and so forth. In each of your years' experience, how have we been screwed over this? What's the importance of it? And what have you seen, within the industry?
Well, it's like protection,
Come on, bro. The first thing you say is it's protection.
I think it's important. It's not just having guidelines for what you offer or what they're supposed to give you or what their guidelines are is in terms of them being your client. I think it protects the client.
Yeah.
To make sure you provide what you're saying you're going to provide, and them doing as well. So
they're holding up their end of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think in some sense it's mind-boggling, and I think one of the reasons why we bring it up today and why we're talking about it and why we're so passionate about it is that it's mind-boggling to me how many people post on a Facebook forum, or we hear about it and say, hey, I had a client, they're not paying me, or I had a client and they canceled on me last minute, or I had a client and they're wanting all the video files. Do I give that to them? And I've been in the same boat, but it's mind-boggling to me to see people go, well, the first question you see in the comments is, do you guys have a contract? If that's the answer no, then you're screwed. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, it's usually, and then they're like, oh yes, then what's in your contract and what does it state? That's very important.
They're like, they're not paying us. It's been 63 days, and you're like, okay, well, you have a contract, right? They're like, yeah. I was like, do you have like net 30, net 60, net 90 in there? They're like, well,
net what?
What? It's like,
what? Oh, so they never have to pay. They just pay you whenever.
What's net?
It's like well, net. Okay, so for the people who don't know what net 30, net 60, net 90 are, and there's even net 180, which is, don't do it.
Yeah. Sorry.
But in terms of what net 30 is, let's say you do a project. When the project is finished and the contract dates are completed, then 30 days after completion of the contracted dates is when you're supposed to be paid. Anything over that could be 2%. It could be the interest your bank carries over.
Yep.
Like, let's say, for example, my bank will charge like $36, or which would be 41% every 36 days, or every 26 days.
Yep.
So it's you got to take that into consideration as you continue going forward. You've got to pay your bills, and so if it's net 60, most companies that are contracting will end up charging the client more because it is net 60 and they have bills to pay within 30 days.
Yep.
Same thing for net 90 and
fees
net 180.
and things like that. Yeah.
So. And is this, for those, just for clarification, when you say like a surcharge on top of that, for example, if it's net 30, is it multiplicative, as in it doubles or triples on every other day?
It could be a percentage. It could be. I think it's up to the discretion of whoever's writing the contract.
Sure.
It's the same thing as like kill fees and overdraft. Do it.
So up to your discretion.
I could have in the contract saying I'm going to charge 2% compounds daily, right? Mm-hmm. And so it could be 2% on top of the project. Could be 10K, so 2%, and then every day, the day after that, it's 4%. The day after that, it's 8%.
If they don't pay,
16.
If they don't pay on net 30 or net 90,
and that's super aggressive, and a lot of people are super scared of signing the contract when they see that, and so, yeah.
Sure. Because, but at the same time, I know for, the three of us, we've experienced multiple times where, we have charged more because of that. And, I think only as of, a year or two ago, 2018, 2019, we switched completely to net 30. Why don't you guys tell us a little bit about, how we have that set up, what we expect when it comes to payment, and how the company works?
In terms of payment, we first start off with the beginning estimates. Estimates go through revisions. Typically, the project will have a project number.
Rarely, we'll send out our
And they're just like,
estimated
yes,
budget.
we want that.
You know, it hits about $50K every time. They're like, yes, that's exactly the number we wanted.
I've heard that we don't do anything.
We don't do anything less.
Is it 10K? If it's not 10K, then we do 20.
Yeah.
And if it's not 20, we do 30.
We do.
You know,
We
just
do
do it in blocks.
When they
10K
say
blocks,
scale back, we scale up. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
But
when they say, can you bring it down from 10K, we're like, we're not doing the project.
Yeah.
And if they say, okay, well, we need a little bit more, we go to 20.
Yeah.
Even if it is to 12, we're going to 20.
I think for contracts, a lot of the time there'll be a negotiation period. Sometimes we've had contracts go out where the company we're contracting with gives it to their legal team, and their legal team says, well, we don't like this, and you go in and you work out a solution and
Or
negotiate.
you go, well, no, that's what we do, and
Yeah.
that's how we operate a business. Well, to give you an example, we won't name names here, but usually how we send out estimates, we get the estimates, and we get an okay on an estimate, and then we start send them a contract basically stating what we're bringing to the table, what gear within that estimate, and we reference the estimate within the contract. That estimate is also breaks down our day rates, what gear we're bringing, what type of gear we're bringing, who we're renting it from. We expect a 50% up front on all of our contracts. It doesn't matter what the budget is. We expect 50% because if we're renting externally, which sometimes we have to do, like glass, a second camera, sliders, fishers, things like that, accessories, all that stuff. We're not financing your shoot. That's our main goal. So that's what that 50% up front is, and it gives you, it gives us a reliance on, like, you're putting skin in this game. You're serious about doing this, and you're putting skin in the game. And so there's that happens when they sign the contract. And if they have any questions or concerns about it, they can ask us, absolutely. But in one of the cases, they were like, well, we don't like this, and we don't like this, and we don't pay 30% up front or 50% up front. And we're like, well, we can change this, we can't change this, and we can't change that based on company policy.
And let's make this very clear. The 50% up front is if we're sourcing. Like, if you're hiring crew, it's completely fine to offer 100% net 30. That's totally acceptable.
With a signed contract.
But if
you're asking,
the person you're hiring, it doesn't matter if it's company or an individual that you're hiring is renting gear externally or is hiring other people, it's bad business for you as an individual to go hire other people, put money out of your own pocket without having any insurance or money coming out from the client to you to cover and reimburse those transactions.
And you would consider that a much easier hit to take if something were to go down, where the project was canceled I think or they dip.
Typically how the budget will kind of float out is you'll have about 40-ish% will be outbound, right? So you get your 50% up front, and if for us we rent gear, we ship stuff in, so we have a lot of money going out, and that typically goes from anywhere from 35% to almost at 50% of the total project cost. And so the moment we get 50% up front, it's all going out. It's being dispersed. It's very little of it is actually staying in the company. And so in terms of what you're saying, it's not, there's not much money that we're actually keeping. So yeah, if the project does go down,
would you consider that almost a project operating budget?
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it's
the same thing with kill fee. Kill fee is another thing on top of that you have to understand is the closer you get to a project, and let's say they want to cancel it or move it, there has to be a kill fee, an increasing kill fee the closer you get to the project. So if we're 48 hours out, you're basically paying the whole project cost.
Yeah.
Which again, it's like it depends on the client. There's also there's exceptions like rain days, and they let you know, or they'll go, hey, we're shooting Wednesday, Thursday, but hold Friday's a rain day.
Yeah,
and that's absolutely fine as long as they clarify that.
Yep. Put it in your contract as a force majeure
Exactly.
day.
Which is fine. I mean, weather happens, but things like we've had where people go, well, we're shooting this week. We're like, great, let's lock that week, and they hold the week, and then 2 days or 3 days before, they're like, guys, we're actually shifting it to the next week. One of our interviewees was unfortunately sick. It's like, guys, we're interviewing 17 people. Like, just one is fine. And they're like, well, we want to move it all next week. It's like, okay, well, we're out of work this week. That's cool.
Yeah, because they book that on what would they consider? Let's say that we're shooting Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. and you have one travel day in the middle of all that, which would be the Monday and the following Friday.
Yep.
And when they're just like, hey, we're going to move it to the week following, that's an entire week gone.
Gone.
Yep.
Which happens, which happens.
For sure.
Sometimes if they give you a week's notice, then it hurts, but it is what it is. But within that 3 to 4, or 3 to 2 day period, that's when we start getting.
What do you think?
We start getting a kill fee.
What would you consider as a reasonable cutoff point?
What, as in like?
Yes, as a production company, we have done projects of our own intention where we have booked the crew, we have been through the whole process of the more of the producing side, which we don't do that very often, but when we do, we have experienced it. What would you consider a reasonable thing if you were to hire, for example, you were hiring a company identical to ours, what would you say would be a reasonable cutoff point? Saying like, hey, we are making an executive decision that we are going to kill these days and we are going to move the project.
I would say a week.
A week, 7 days.
Now, again, there's always such a thing as act of God. There's always those things, type of things. Yeah, but I think a week is something that if it's so unexpected, I feel like any experienced producer is going to go. They're going to see it coming. They're going to see the client is not being realistic with their time
or they
restraints,
won't sign the contract,
or it's not, or they're hem-hawing around about what they want. And if an experienced producer looks at that situation within a week or 2 weeks out, they'll call it. They'll contact the production company and go, guys, that week is starting to, is shooting. They're not following through.
We've even, I won't name names, but we've even experienced where the producer will call us before the actual production company or director call it off. And they will let us know because, they're good producers and like, look, there is a high potential that this is not going to happen.
Exactly.
And they saved us from renting gear. They've saved us from locking in crew.
Well, it's bad enough. It's bad. And it's a bad feeling when you get a hold of, they call you, they're saying, hey, we need PAs, we need ACs, and you guys are, heads and whatever. And we're like, great, we get a signed contract, we get a 50% up front, and it's a week's out, and they go, guys, we're calling it off, we're moving it to the next week, which is fine. But then you're calling everybody up or you're sending a mass email saying, guys, everything's moved to the following week, and then you got to rearrange.
Let me know who can reschedule who's available those weeks.
And that's a matter of it's a big pain, and there's also a clause that I've kind of been on the fence about. It's called project delay, and it's a clause that basically states if it's moved out of this X amount of time past the date, like if they move it, let's say 30 days after the date of the originally scheduled shoot, then it's considered new work, which means the project is paid in full, and then if they want to book it again, then it would be considered completely new, and there would be a completely new estimate and contract. But that's another way of having yourself covered, not only through the kill fee, but if they delay the project.
Which we are experiencing that right now.
Not to run down the rabbit hole too far, but I'm actually going to backtrack very quickly so we can kind of cover this. I know there's probably going to be some people that are listening to us that are new, that are just getting into freelancing. And I think one of the more crucial conversations that I had when I first started out, specifically when we started talking about Net 30, actually coming back to that conversation, for younger people who are getting into it, more importantly, just inexperienced individuals, if they are wanting to implement a Net 30 concept into their contracts, which we would highly suggest, what would you two suggest as a good pinnacle? Was it Net 30 to start off with 50% as a upfront? Or do you, how do you play that off?
It depends on what your needs are. I think if you have hard costs going out a lot of the time, and if about 50% of your project cost is going to be hard cost, then I would say 50% up front.
Well, here's the thing though, as a company, and this is what we do, is that we rent gear, which we have all this set up all over, and it's super easy to get things rented. It's not that big of a deal. We don't have to send them a COI because we've already sent them a COI. They know who we are because we've been there. absolutely fine.
And also
And-
explain really quickly what a COI is.
Well, it's just a certificate of insurance. That's all it is.
Certificate of insurance that has been sent to some of the main primary rental houses that we work with directly.
Yep.
Which we have are previously contracted with them, so that when we want gear, we call them. We have the gear.
Yep.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it depends on what you're doing. I in a specific sense, within our company, we will rent gear, which our production company's renting gear for them. They're not renting the gear. That's how that works. There's also another scenario if you're a DP, right? Or you're a gaffer, or you're a sound guy, and you're doing this solo, and you're just doing this yourself. It's easy enough to go, I don't want to, there's no reason for me to get insurance. I'll just send the list to the producer, say, hey, this is what I want from this rental house. This is what we need to pick up.
Yep.
You pay me to go pick it up. You pay me for the travel. And
You rent the gear.
and you guys rent the gear.
Yep.
And that's another way. It's an easy
And
scenario.
that's happened a couple times through us. is
Exactly.
They didn't want to pay, for us to actually go and pick up the gear.
Sure.
They didn't want to pay for whatever.
Which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But then they call back and they're like, well, it would have probably been easier if you guys did it. And because because it is. As a producer, you shouldn't be, and hypothetically, you shouldn't be doing, gear acquisition because you don't know what you're doing. Because if you forget something, then we get back to my truck and I go, where's the spuds? Where's where's the lollipops? And they're like, the lollipops?
Did you forget the M18?
Yeah.
What?
Oh,
The
was
what?
there supposed to be one?
Was there a light?
Yep. Dope, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, at the end of the day, that's kind of why what we do,
Sure.
kind of what we do.
Well, let's put it in perspective of, I'm trying to think back to some of the projects we did when we first started out. Let's just say it's a small company, single guy. Let's say he meets up with a local, grocery store or organic stand, for example. They want to do a commercial about their company, right? It's just a S&E type of sit down, interview, basic. They want to charge, he charges them $5,000 for it, right? It's a single day shoot.
Yeah,
He's going to edit, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we walk away.
Well, no. I'm saying for an exemplary situation.
Oh, yeah,
Jesus. In that situation, because, what they are proposing, how would you approach, based off of what we've experienced, how would you approach the 50% up
You're
front?
not renting. He's not going to be renting any extra gear.
Should he? Should he put anything up front?
If he is renting extra gear that he doesn't
think
own.
about it. What if he doesn't own his camera? What if he's
Okay,
shooting on this on an A7S?
Well, here's what I'd
you
say.
know?
Here's what I'd say. One, it's a $5,000 budget. It's not gonna be pretty. Let's just get that basically. As an independent, hopefully you would have an experienced DP that knows what he's doing with a $5,000 budget. He would probably already have a connection to the rental house because he rented before, or his school is a part of the company that already has insurance through the company, so he's probably renting that gear. I wouldn't assume that if it's a producer, if a client contacts you directly as a DP and goes, hey, I want a video, then they're not renting, they're not sending CO, they don't even have that type of insurance. But if it's a producer or a director contacting you, 90% of the time, the producer or the director would have their own insurance, which is fine.
But I think on what you're talking about, I think if you have money going out for gear, you need to cover that and then some. So whatever that may be, it could be 35%, could be 40% up front, whatever. And if you're at 40%, just make it 50%.
Stay with 50. Yeah, it's a good number.
But just work with your client. Let's talk about it doesn't have to be 50%. It can be it could be 3 installments. It could be a 25, 25, 50. And the 25 is before, 25 is the moment you hop on set, and 50% on net 30.
Sure. Okay. Moving from that concept, I think one of the questions I actually was asked this recently by a young filmmaking guy who was very curious to know what I would consider the primary and or let's say 3 or 4 needed contracts. Like if you were to get a bundle of the necessity of contracts that you need and or like legal documents in between people, in between you and the client, what would you say those contracts are?
I'd say 3: invoice, estimate, contract.
Yeah.
Those are the main 3 that we use.
And how does it work? It goes estimate.
It goes estimate, contract, invoice.
Yep.
Yeah. And it depends on what you do. It depends on what, sort of, there's a ton of them, like QuickBooks, FreshBooks. There's a ton of programs out there to do invoicing. We have a system that works well, and it works together with everything that we do. let alone it probably not, it might not be the easiest for us, but there are 3 of us in this business. We have to keep track of everything and anything that comes out or goes in.
He whispered something you don't want to know what he said.
And so at that end, I can't even think what I was saying. But no, it's easy for us. What I would say is, and what I've seen a lot happens, is that you'll just send numbers. And I hate sending numbers in an email form.
Just typing, it's like, how much does this cost?
Yeah, and it's like,
I am worth this much.
Yeah, it's like my day rate in an email. It's like, no, dude, put that in a PDF. People, when they click on it, they see your logo. They see the breakdown of what you're doing. They see who
date.
It's to.
Yep.
They see who proposed it. It's beautiful when that happens.
There have been quite a few people that I've sent estimates and contracts to that we got done working with them, and they're just like, I don't want to say this to make a point, but he's like, it was interesting to see the estimate first, and then the contract, then the invoice, and they were all the same. They were all the same type of layout. They were very professional. They had your information. They had my information. The client's or the producer and the client's address and company.
It was very formal.
Very formal.
And what was his opinion?
It was secure.
Yeah.
It was
He
like
felt
a lot of the time the contract isn't about looking cool. It's not about being cool. It's not about having a contract.
We are an official company.
It's about being official, but it's also about security. It's security that when a producer sees it, he says, yes, these people know what they're doing.
Sure.
They have all these guidelines that they follow and I follow, but they can negotiate it. But it's just a matter of being professional and having some level of security.
Well, and I'd also say, like, we've had instances where producers like, wow, this is a super extensive contract. We're just doing a simple video. But in that sense, the reasonable response is, well, expectations never change. Your expectation of what you wanted me to do is not changing if this is a $30,000 or $40,000 budget.
So what you're suggesting is that whatever standard that you end up choosing with, it needs to be not only persistent, consistent, but it needs to set a standard for you and not worry about what the client thinks.
If the producer's like, well, I like your contract, can we change a couple things or any of that stuff? It's great when a client or if a producer brings up, well, did we agree on this? And you just flip over to your contract and go, yes, we did. It's right there. And that's your name down there signed at the bottom. And that's what it is. Like, it's super easy. Expectations are managed, and you want to manage people's expectations, and the easiest way to do that is with a contract. There's no if or ands, there's just buts. That's it. It is what it is.
And also, in terms of using a PDF, you're able to use smart contracts. You can upload a smart contract. Somebody has like a program for smart contracts. They can sign it.
Yeah.
And that's something that's massive.
Yeah.
Something you don't find on email.
Again, I strongly tell you, please do not go to Google and go contracts and then download one of theirs.
Free contracts, yeah.
Please. No. What I would say is go check out Freelance Kit. Read through some of that stuff. It is super helpful. And that's what we use. We use the Freelance Kit stuff.
It's not cohesive in a sense of you can have all your data in one spot and like they've got programs like QuickBooks has an invoicing and an estimate builder, but they don't have a contract builder, and so
what's the point of an invoice or an estimate and invoice if you don't have a contract? There's just pieces of paper that say, here's what I think you.
Here's what I'm suggesting, and here's what I want from you.
Yeah, and this is what I'm suggesting, or this is what I want, and then pay me.
So
you're like
the full setup of having, there's multiple others than just estimate, invoice, and contract. There's a lot of them, but having a full gambit of PDF documents you can use, mood boards and storyboards and pitch drafts and there's a bunch of them. Having that whole thing, yes, you're going to have to set up a system, whether that be a number system by project and then by version, whether it be by year, month, date, and then version.
Sure.
However you want to set that up, having a system in form, whether it be by folder, you can search by tag is the best way. But yeah.
With that in mind, considering that there are a lot of people who are in the freelance realm that do not use contracts, or specifically, let's just give it, in the first 18 to 24 months. Within, going freelance, they have run into multiple situations where they are either screwed over by the client, or they willfully recognize or just they are capable of recognizing that they should have done a contract of some sort.
Yeah.
How important is contracts in general for those that may be kind of on the board, like I can get by until I get bigger.
Well,
you know?
what happens is, even if it's $2,000 or $3,000, it doesn't
still
matter.
$2,000 or
You
$3,000.
do, yeah, it's $2,000 or $3,000, and then when you move out and you're young and you're codependent on that money, I don't think people don't realize how important contracts are when someone owes you money, and then they stop responding to your emails. Yes. Or your phone calls, or your texts, or anything, and then there's that sink. Your gut sinks, and your heart feels like it's about to explode. It's like, wait a minute, we have nothing that ties you to what I did. I just gave you the footage. I gave you everything, and now you're
one perk. If you don't want to do contracts, you don't want to do anything, do not hand over finished work. If you're doing post, make sure that it's watermarked.
Sure.
The full thing's watermarked.
You should do the contracts, and then never hand.
I mean,
over
you just have contracts, and then you'd be just fine.
That's what it is.
You wouldn't have to watermark it.
Yep.
I think it's super important, very, very important.
Yep.
Sure.
Anybody, please.
Because as a company, I'm assuming that you guys, when you walk into those situations, for those that are listening, you need to realize that the companies that you're working with, if they are bigger than you, do have contracts. They are very fully legally aware of what they are doing, and for you to walk into it, what you are inherently doing is putting yourself at a disadvantage by not contracting. Yes, I'm not. Not only do I not consider myself worthy of having this there, but I'm not going to put the time and effort in to make sure that I am legally prepared to do business with you. Definitely, as you've heard, like, definitely pay attention to that, and focus really hard on getting yourself set up. It is your backbone. It is your stronghold, and the stronger your legal side is and your mindset into how you're approaching business, the better your ability to negotiate will be.
Yep.
And one thing that I have found is that I think, for me personally, I've just felt more confident in the past 2 years. Having the ideal that we are capable of carrying out from start to finish, just on the legal side. I'm not talking about your art. I'm not talking about what you can do with your hands or what your mind can create. Those things, as an artist, it's a gift, and it's something you should use as your talent. But that talent can be very easily exploited by those who have the ability to just manipulate you, because that happens a lot to people in our industry.
If you don't, it's the same line, same saying. You can be the best artist, but you don't know how to sell yourself, then you're not going to be.
You'll be
nobody's
on
going
the
to know
street.
you.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as if you can be the best artist, but if you get screwed over a lot by other clients, then you're not going to make anything.
It's also good when a business person's like, I'm going to contact this artist, this independent guy, and he's like, I think I can extort him, and then you send him a contract, and they're like, all right, well, damn it.
Well, that didn't work out.
That didn't work out. They're like, this guy's prepared.
Yep.
He's been burnt before. We've been asked that so many times. They're like, your contract's extensive. You guys been burnt before? And we're like, yep.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, sir.
But yeah, again, as an overview for this whole thing, just be prepared, guys. Don't let yourself get caught off guard because you just didn't put in a little bit of effort, a couple of hours of research and reading.
Yep. Don't be stupid.
And don't be stupid. It is not worth whatsoever for you to end up in a situation where you've been burned, and you'll look back and even maybe end up in a situation where you're listening to this podcast again. You're like, I should have done it. But yeah. Dodging from a serious note, though, what else has happened in the industry recently?
Moving on to movies and news.
Yeah, movie and news, yeah.
Oh, now we can talk about good stuff. Anyway, I wanted to talk firstly about Mindhunter, which I think I had just finished the second season, which is really good. There are some parts in there for all of you family friendly people. Please, you're 13 or below 18 or wait, was it below 21?
Okay, so it's funny you mentioned that. There's this whole argument going online right now about whether NC-17 will come back, as in, like, for example, there's PG-13, right?
Sure.
And then you've got R.
Yep.
And then
R's
what?
18 plus.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's not enforced anymore. It's not like you have to be like at 13 you can go in and see an R-rated movie.
Yeah. I think it's at 13 you can go in and see an R-rated movie with a parent. You can't. How old? Because I know NC-17 basically says you cannot go into this film unless you are 17. At 17, no. At 17 you can go in and watch it by yourself.
That's what 16 that means. Though. I know 16-year-olds. I know 16-year-olds that have gone into theaters
because they fake that they're 17.
Mm-hmm.
That's
well, they're not IDing people when they're walking into the theater. So
they should be. There's like a eye scanner they should be using. Just eye scanner.
Yeah.
You were born in '94.
Eye security.
But yes, Mindhunter.
94 would put them in way older. But anyway, the number that came to mind. Mindhunter. No, so I absolutely love those type of TV series, and I don't like. I'm not talking about NYCS or Criminal Minds. Absolutely, that's garbage. I'm talking about actual film. And I read an article about the second unit DP and how he was doing the lighting and things like that, which is absolutely interesting. But I wanted to talk about. I didn't know that this was actually based on a book, which is interesting. It was written by. This TV series was created by Joe Penhall. And it's based on a true crime book, Mindhunter, which is hilarious. And then there's a lot of people that have written about it, which is
Like, I've seen the entire first season, and I thought that was phenomenal. I've watched like 5 episodes or so of the second season. I do think it's strong. Don't get me wrong. I think it's good.
Yeah.
I don't think it has the same shell shock as I got from the first one, because the first one just blew me away because it's such a bizarre concept to like sit there and do this. But I don't know if this is true or not. But is it not based off of like real events that have happened within the FBI and the whole process?
I feel like in some sense there's a level of
Fidelity.
well, there's a lot. Yeah, there's a level of truth within it. There's a silver lining. Some of the people that have happened with it, or some of the events that have happened, didn't happen on the dates. The whole show is based in around 1970s, and one of the people that you'll see in the actual TV show, which in the second season is one of the guys that is in Atlanta, and there's murders happening. That happened in 1958. That didn't actually happen in the 1970s. So they manipulate or they change the dates and they change what's based on what their story is, which is, I think, great. I mean, no one wants to.
It's more about the idea.
It's more about the idea, and I feel like it's a super good film. Just knowing, just because I love watching the Zodiac. I've watched all of the documentaries that have been on a ton of the serial killers.
And you were a huge fan of Dexter.
Absolutely. And I'm a huge fan of like FBI videos, which I know they're super stupid, and me calling Criminal Minds cheesy is just whatever, it's irony, I guess. But talking about serial killers and that the whole concept behind that they don't show emotion and they don't have emotion and they can't feel emotion, I think it's just super interesting. But that being said, I wanted to talk about some of the stuff that they had filmed. They were filming in Pittsburgh, which is
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Huh.
Which I think is great, and even for the look, I feel like they shoot it. I guess most TV series are shot between
Where's
February.
Quantico?
Quantico's Virginia.
Virginia.
Is that where they film?
I think. Hold on.
Yeah.
No. It's all a set, dude.
Is that all the set? Like
Yeah.
the whole building and everything?
100%.
Wow. That's impressive, man. Like,
Well,
and
maybe
it's such a good,
the
like,
exterior stuff, maybe.
the visual effects in that film are absolutely phenomenal because they're so evenly put in that you can't tell whether it is or is not.
Yeah.
VFX.
Yeah, I would say that it's. It's probably the exteriors are shot in Quantico, and then
It's
any of
Virginia.
the other stuff. Yeah, I knew that. Yeah. And
Okay,
then,
Curtis.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
I knew
Curtis.
that. They return.
Are they still shooting this on the Ranger? I believe. The Red Ranger. I believe?
No, that was one in the article. Is that they for season 2, the second they switched to the helium.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait. What? Why?
I'd have to read more of the article, but the second unit DP switched to the helium. The red helium.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was more based on the idea of because again, to me, second unit means that they're going to go out and get all the visual effects shots.
Sure.
Which
VFX, exteriors,
type of thing. So it might be something that they want to do something along the lines of just that, and they want to have a little bit more
There's
pixels.
a specific reason.
Yeah.
See, well, the Red Ranger is the Monstro. They were shooting full frame for a lot of the first season. That was the speciality about the Ranger. And then you've got. It's surprising they went back to Super 35.
Yeah.
I mean, there's obviously multiple different reasons that I've read about where DPs will switch between full frame and Super 35. Either for an emotional what was it? Emotional compression, because Super 35 gives the human body and the human face much of an original form factor feel, the same way older films had from when they shot 35 mil in the 50s.
Yeah.
Because in our brains, because think about it, like what we're experiencing right now is a generation of older filmmakers that grew up on 50s films.
Yep.
You know, so our mind sees the world through what they've done, and we're seeing the second generation version of that. Today's films.
Yep.
Disney is a primary example of that. They shot everything in 35 mil. Now they shoot everything in Alexa and Sony, and it's all that super 35 like beautiful, perfect, film.
Which is great.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. I love it. The one thing I will always congratulate Disney on is they have such a good image. It's almost immaculate in the way they film.
Well, and you know what? It's interesting, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel like maybe Stranger Things, and I don't know if it is, but maybe Stranger Things. I feel like Mindhunters might be the best TV show that Netflix has dialogue-wise. As in,
it's very.
It feels like a HBO show.
It's one of the few that does feel
when
like
I say
HBO,
when I say that there's like a very specific color grade. There's a very specific look. There's a very specific, and it may be just because it was set in the 1970s.
Sure.
But it just feels like something that's quality-wise held up to HBO.
It's weird you say that, because I have heard that there's an argument that there is a caliber of not so much the cinematographers or such, that HBO has such a caliber of writers that they focus so heavily on their ability to write good stories that they have made themselves a name because of that. For example, because I've seen some HBO shows that I thought wasn't shot the best, but I didn't care. The story was good.
Yeah.
But the thing with Mindhunter is it holds on both of them. The writing is so stinking compelling, and the dialogue is so good in like the nuances of the human interaction.
It's like if you watch a TV show and the moment you go into this one scene, it's nothing but fluff.
Sure.
Don't get me
wrong. Like
Mindhunter has a little bit of fluff, but it's necessary.
Sure.
There's not a whole lot of dialogue that's just
sure. No, I agree. There's a show called what's it called? The Wu Assassins. Have you seen that? It's like, here. Let me actually read the when Kai actually here. What's the overview? Where is the overview? The whole story is about this kid named Kai, and he is given the power of the Wu dragon or whatever it is. Okay. It